thanks for sticking around. I know we've had a full couple of days, and I am a little bit biased, but I do think we saved the best for last. So, so the focus of this session is really to talk about program maturity and program growth. And we've got this fantastic panel here that represent various levels of experience within innovation and also various innovation use cases. So I'm really happy to have them here. Appreciate your time and you guys sharing your experiences. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through and take a couple of minutes and let each of these people speak to their innovation programs and talk about their innovation growth. But before we do that, just briefly introduce them. So first we have Kendra Gittes from Syngenta. Then we have Kripal Chauhan from the International Monetary Fund. And we've got Stephanie Hegarty from Cisco and Laura Adams from Black & Veatch. So Kendra, I'll let you get started and just take a few minutes to talk a little bit about your innovation program and then one or two things that you feel like have been key in allowing you to grow and mature your program.
Hello, so my name is Kendra Gittes. I'm a global crowdsourcing and open innovation systems lead at Syngenta. Syngenta, for those who don't know, is an agricultural business. So what we're trying to do is improve global food security by working with our customers, the growers, to try and enhance what they do, enabling them to grow more using less resources. The Crowdsourcing and Innovation Systems team essentially is a centre of excellence, so we work with colleagues in R&D in order to help them to solve some of their challenging problems. The programme that we've got is both internal and external, so one of the things that I do is actually sit down with scientists, try to understand what their needs are, and then help them articulate the problems to be solved. We then use the internal and external crowdsourcing problems to try and deliver high-value and impactful solutions. As a company, we've got around about 28,000 employees. We're in 90 different countries, and the R&D centres alone total 119. So as you can imagine, it's quite difficult to actually get cross-collaboration and engagement within Syngenta. So the Bright Idea platform is our internal resource for crowdsourcing, and it helps us to understand what Syngenta knows. So knowing where within Syngenta we can actually go to find that expertise and find solutions to the problems. And also, because of the diversity of people working within Syngenta R&D and moving around across the company, it's very difficult to know who it is that you need to go and speak to if you've got a particular problem. So a couple of examples of success stories that we have, just to articulate the type of problems that we're solving. One of the challenges that we had came from our flowers group, and what they were looking for was a methodology to be able to identify when a petunia had drought-tolerant genes. So we posted it on the Bright Idea platform, and essentially got solutions coming in from 7 different geographies and from people working across a whole range of different crops. And the solution that was the winning solution actually came from somebody working in the US in sugarcane, not within Holland, within petunia flowers. So that's an example of a success story where we've taken a challenge and found a solution. We also use the Bright Idea platform to help us generate insights and ideas. So we had another challenge, which is around emerging technologies within the digital space. So again, reached out to our experts across Syngenta and asked them for their ideas of what things should we be focusing our effort and energy in from an R&D perspective. We got around 90 different ideas, and 6 of those were sponsored by our R&D leadership team and became emerging technologies, which are now being taken through our platform. In terms of how do we grow and mature our programme, we heard in the last session that endorsement from senior management is obviously key. Communicate is another thing that we focus our efforts on. I think the one that hasn't been mentioned so far is about reducing the barriers to engagement. So one of the things that we do as the crowdsourcing team is to actually try and make it as easy as possible for people to actually post challenges, And in terms of getting people engaged and providing solutions, we allow people to post anonymously so that they don't have to put their head above the parapet. They can put their ideas on and, being scientists, not have them judged. And then the final one was starting small in scale. So we focus primarily on the R&D community in the first instance, and we're now expanding our program by engaging different communities and onboarding people so that they can actually run their own innovation programs, but with us as a centre of excellence that they can come back to for support. Thank you.
Thanks, Kendra.
Thank you, Kendra. Okay, thank you. My name's Kurpal Chauhan. I work for the International Monetary Fund. I'm the group lead for collaborative innovation. We've been at it for about 3 years now, and when I first pitched the idea on crowdsourcing, which was much before that, no one believed it would work, and there was good rationale for that. And even our first challenge, when we ran our first challenge, people didn't believe the engagement numbers that we had. So it goes to the power of showing that it actually works, because we've got figures on social media, even on internet articles, and we were getting, engagement that was beyond, probably 100-fold what engagement we had on newspaper articles. So that was interesting. Now, a little bit about how we structured. We sort of have the predominantly internal challenges that we're doing. We also have an innovation fund, which we started last year. And we're also now venturing into external crowdsourcing, as well as we've been supporting the growth of an innovation lab. So we're kicking that off, and I was really pleased to see the new features so we can leverage that going forward. I want to sort of keep it brief, but I mean the key thing that sort of works for us is basically executive sponsorship. I mean, no one's going to really participate, even if you have the best technology, if you don't have that top-down, we're watching, we're interested. The weekly reminders, every week you have a touch point. I think, from one source or another, that works really well. Email works very well from someone important. What we found is that the system-generated emails don't work very well or even stuff that comes from a generic email box, because there's no personal attachment to that. So that was an interesting observation. Now, having said that, you do your normal communication campaigning. Even that by itself doesn't work that well. So if you've got, top-down sponsorship, you've got standard communications, sometimes even that doesn't work very well. So, it's really about the champions who sort of go out there and get people sort of, tap them on the shoulder, say, look, let's participate. So what we sort of ended up doing, which worked quite well, was as long we got, the first couple of things, squared off. Well, we get our evaluation committee, which is typically representatives from each business department, and we sort of charge them with a responsibility of getting people engaged as well. And we put the problem on them. So, and that seemed to have worked well with our challenges. So they typically get, people engaged. One thing we got to be careful of is that over time, especially the novelty wears off as well. So first couple of challenges work well. So, we always got to think about different ways of keeping people engaged. And I was talking to someone here from Clorox. I'm not sure if he's here, but one of the strategy that they had was really very nice. Is they have these workshops where they get people. I'm not sure if it's a Clorox, but basically having workshops sort of once a week, to actually get ideas from a workshop, because that's the hardest thing, is getting people's time. This is voluntary, no one's going to. So I think that idea works really well, and something we're going to explore. So that's typically the this top-down, bottom-up thing that works. But the next sort of key thing that works really well is the innovation fund. We have two ways of funding ideas. One is basically through targeted challenges. We may say that we'll sponsor like the top idea, but we always sort of under-promise but over-deliver. So we'll say, look, we'll fund, the top one or two ideas, but eventually when it comes down to it, not all ideas need funding. So we generally, do a lot more. So I think, but that's key. I mean, having some sort of funding to actually develop the ideas is really key, because a lot of the people are busy. They don't have the time. Without having that funding or the resources, that people can sort of rely on, that's really the key to getting these proof of concepts sort of developed and, shown to have value. So that's one of the things. One of our most successful challenges we did was a big data challenge, and that was actually our first major one. What's really nice about that challenge, it was a topic that was very well selected for the first challenge, because we're basically a data analytical institution, research based. So we couldn't have picked a better sort of topic. At that point, people weren't using big data, or they weren't interested in big data because they thought we don't need it. The problem with traditional sort of analytic work is you're using well-established statistical data. Now, there's a problem with that. One is that not every country has it, and two is there's a big time delay, and you may not be able to get to the right sort of level of, granularity as well. So that generated a huge sort of engagement, especially from where we got it sponsored from the MD. And that one we sort of finished, after the challenge was run, we had 100 ideas. We sort of selected the top 10. And then we actually got them to pitch their ideas. And the pitches, they're my favorite part of the ideas challenge, honestly. And I was always blown away with, how well these pitches were done, and how they change the rankings as well. So we might, before we actually do the evaluation, we got the top 10. You could see after the pitches was done, these sort of rankings change, and they could change from the scores. So that was a very interesting perspective as well. So I think one thing, if you want to do it, incorporate the pitches in your evaluation criteria. I think that makes a world of a difference, both for evaluators as well as for the people submitting the ideas. So anyway, we sort of got 6 ideas down, and we sort of gave money. We sort of funded about 120K for these 6 ideas. We didn't need to fund all of it, but we used about 100K. So at the end of that whole sort of session, we actually have completed the proof of concept. One of them dropped out. We changed the ideas, and we actually went back to the MD's office, and we presented these ideas. Now, you think of an organization like IMF, staff typically don't have an opportunity to present their ideas and findings back to the managing director. It's never been done before, so that was a huge sort of opportunity for staff. And even getting a photo taken with the MD, so that was really awesome. So we had some good dialogue there, and one of the key questions sort of that was raised there was, okay, this is great. How do you sort of operationalize it? And the MD is really good. She's a real people person, and she doesn't sort of force ideas down. But she said, how do you sort of socialize this, and how do you get feedback from the departments? So the teams actually took that on board, and they actually went socialized their ideas to each of the departments. And they got some interest. So 3 of those ideas are actually being sort of productionized, which is good. 3 ideas you've got in big data potentially could make a big difference. One of them was use of Swift data to sort of monitor capital flows across the world, which it can give you a lot of insights, because it's an evidence-based, it's a data set that we didn't typically use. It's expensive. But, we've got that now. We can explore all sorts of ways of using that. The other one we had was now caching, where we look at treasuries data and sort of come up with, real-time indicators on how to support some of the policy advice. And the third one was like a week at the beach index, where we look at the competitiveness of each of the tourist-dependent countries, which is sort of like the Big Mac Index. So we got 3 ideas that made it to production. So that was sort of an example of a successful one. And the last point I want to sort of raise is, like, many of you might have limited resources. So, but one thing that not to underestimate is the extended team. So, I mean, I'm only one resource, but I use the extended teams quite a bit. So I usually charge them up with, communications, marketing plans. So that really helps quite a bit, and even some of the recognition. So I would, say leverage your extended teams, and don't leverage people outside your group to sort of help you with your challenges. So that's it from my side.
Thank you so much, Kripal.
All right, hello. My name is Stephanie Hegarty. I'm from Cisco. If you don't know what Cisco is, we're very... the name does come from the San Francisco Bridge, fun fact. We are about 115,000 people coming across the globe in a number of different countries and dealing with information technology, security, really anything that helps connect the way that we work and live. I think our goal is by 2020 to connect over 20 billion devices. So we're trying to be at the hub. So innovation is just in our blood, and we try to feel it every day. It's constantly reiterated from our executives around how important it is for us as a big company to constantly be innovating on a daily basis. From our specific team, we have a Services Innovation Excellence Center. So within Cisco, there's a number of different teams that focus on innovation, but my team specifically focuses on the services organization, and you can see us as internal innovation consultants. So we have a number of different services that we offer. It's not just running challenges, right? We do a focus of innovation training. We feel that it's very important for everybody to be speaking the same language. We've done over 2,000 plus sessions of in-person trainings, from everything from teaching people how to calculate business impact to a 6-week course of innovation capability foundations training to basically doing maturity assessments for teams if they want to understand where their innovation level is at, and then we help them create a maturity plan in order to get to a different level. Outside of the training, we do front end of innovation. This is really where my expertise comes into play. I help people within the organization identify a right problem to solve. We're not just trying to have an open suggestion box. We're really trying to have a strategic focus and help them understand leveraging different design thinking aspects of a right problem that's really going to make an impact. And before we kick off anything, I'm kind of going to blend the overview and a lesson learned is we create a charter in the beginning, and that's what we have the executive sponsor go ahead and sign and saying, this is what I expect from you, and this is what you can expect from me. And it's just getting everybody on the same page up front, and it really helps with when it gets to the incubation of the ideas. We've been a team for about 6 years now. I've been on the team for the past 2 years. Prior to Cisco, I was actually part of a grassroots innovation program at Nielsen. And so I've been in this innovation space for about 5+ years now and have experienced everything from being at a grassroots level in a team of 2.5 to moving to a team at Cisco where we have 10 people on a team. And at one point we had 15 people on a team, and priorities shift. But it's really nice to be a part of a really mature team. Just a few statistics. We've probably ran over 50 challenges. We've currently right now have probably 15 active challenges going on. We're constantly doing different workshops. We're getting into a customer co-creation program to where we're really trying to create different relationships with our customers and help them see us as innovation experts. And that's where our team can come into play. We partner with our advanced services groups to really align with the customer and help grow our customers' innovation muscles and leverage our innovation framework to help them define a problem, empathize and define, and ultimately ideate and prototype, and then test it, right? So we're not just going to come in and run a workshop. We're going to be there in the beginning, the middle, and the end. We've generated over $100 million in business impact. And, we track ideas relentlessly all throughout. As you guys know, and you can probably empathize with, is it's not just going to happen overnight, and you have to really follow up with those idea owners and really help them along the way so it doesn't die. And then ultimately, outside of the front end, we have the back end. And this is where our incubation efforts come into play. We have a number of different frameworks around how to build innovation portfolios for teams. So we have trainings around that. We have playbooks around that. So a lot of documented material has helped us be successful over the years, as well as just shifting kind of gears and constantly understanding the environment, understanding our stakeholders, and being able to pivot. I mean, every single year our strategy is different, and it hasn't just been the same. And we constantly are listening, what does our customer want? What does our customer need? And being able to just pivot along the way and be the water over the rocks. And, we certainly understand that our priorities can shift. And, being an innovation team, we're okay with that. We embrace the chaos, and as the organization, as big as it is, we fight through the politics and, really just focus on the end game of delivering strong impact. I'll pass it to Laura.
Thank you,
so
Stephanie.
much. So one of my favorite people who inspires me, our business excellence lead at Black & Veatch, he often says that you need 3 things to succeed: passion, discipline, and resilience. And I feel like it's such an honor to be up here with you guys because I heard that from everyone. You talked about your mission. You talked about coming back again and again and again, never giving up on involving people. And you've got the discipline thing covered, and that's amazing. And, so I'm Laura Adams. I work at Black & Veatch. We're a company of 10,000 people, so just a percentage of Cisco over here. And we have 100 offices around the world. We're an engineering, procurement, construction company. Our core businesses are in power, water, telecommunications, oil and gas. And then we also do mission-critical infrastructure like data centers. And we're moving into the smart integrated infrastructure and transformative technology space. So it's a tremendously exciting time to be part of an engineering firm. The first 10 years that I was at Black & Veatch, I worked on combining engineering and ecology and bringing designs to clients that were influenced by the natural world. And about a year and a half ago, I was invited to help form a new team at the corporate level called the Growth Accelerator. And our charge is twofold. One, it's to act as a strategy central for the company. So we provide tools and market research and facilitate workshops with strategists in each of those core business units. And the second part was a little bit more open-ended. And I have to admit, when I jumped into this, I realized I was in the middle of the ocean a year and a half ago. And I was learning a lot at this conference last year, and now it's just an honor to get to have experienced and learned so much this last year and share those experiences with you. So that second part of our group is an incubator, and our charge is to incubate new business for the company. The Bright Idea platform, which we brand as Spark, and it's so ingrained in my mind that it's really hard for me to call it the Bright Idea platform. I don't know if you guys have a similar challenge. It is part of kind of that early stage program, and we use the platform, but we've paired some of these workshops, like what you're talking about, under the same brand. So we have Spark Hours, we have Spark Pitches that are in person, and then these Spark Challenges. And the challenges that we've run, they have been, we've run challenges to allow people to nominate themselves to participate in our incubator. We've run challenges to track technology. We've run challenges on very specific project levels if we need to crowdsource innovative ideas. We've run challenges to determine who's coming into the incubator and what ideas are they bringing. So if you think about our Growth Accelerator, we're working in both strategy and incubating new business ideas. And I brought a video. There were a lot of videos, and this is actually the first time, usually we bring PowerPoints. This was the first time I had a video that was relevant. I'm so excited. I was like, I'm going to make sure this gets some airplay. We just finished this. This probably technically is the draft. I don't know if I have Global Marketing's permission to use it. But so you guys, this is the debut. Yeah, don't record it. No recordings allowed. When we first started a year and a half ago, we were really, we ran a few challenges. We were taking projects as they came to us. And we decided we needed a much more structured way to bring investment opportunities to our growth council. And that's the group that we're pitching investment opportunities in. An example of criteria, we were listening to Clorox present earlier. When we invest in an idea, if we're going to invest $20,000 in that idea, it needs to have $250 or above $1 million of revenue, projected revenue, in the next 3 years. So, so the pitches that we take, we have really high expectations, and there's a lot of crafting and shaping and working with the teams and coaching those teams to get to that level. So instead of just doing ad hoc projects, what we did this last summer is partnered with Techstars. I don't know if anyone has been part of a Techstars startup weekend. Familiar? Anyone? Yeah, some nods. So we brought them into the company. This is another kind of, I think, unique focus on our group. We're not accelerating external startups. We decided in a really dedicated way to our professionals that we have a lot of great ideas. So the first couple of years of our accelerator is very focused on empowering entrepreneurs inside the company. So we brought Techstars into Black & Veatch. We asked teams to come pitch their idea, or we asked individuals to come pitch their idea. I was so nervous that people weren't going to come. 60 people came and pitched in front of, in a big room just like this, 1 minute each. We picked 9 of those ideas by just putting them up on the board and having people, sticker. You guys, innovation experts, design thinkers, they all must have invested in Post-it notes, right? I mean, you guys used so many of them. And we took those 9 teams. We worked with them for 3 days to develop pretty good pitches. It was amazing. They worked around the clock. It was amazing time. The executive leadership picked 5 of those teams, and those teams were invited to participate in a 6-week boot camp. And that boot camp, again, was facilitated by our team as well as an entrepreneur in residence. And the result of that is shown on this video. This was the public showcase of those pitches. We talked about this earlier. I think Clorox mentioned their pitches happen in a closed session. That's really important too. So the real VC pitch to the Growth Council, that was private. But this is the way that we empowered those people in front of the whole company. And so I invite you to watch the draft, just 60-second video documenting this program. It's a draft.
There's actually no video.
There's actually, yeah. There's a lot of excitement.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Oh, man. Really sorry.
Apparently, Global Marketing heard my comment.
Trouble.
They have tapped the room.
You know what, Laura?
That's fine.
Truman Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on here.
No, it's fine. No
It's
worries.
online. Let's defer this. I'm going to try to load
Yeah.
it over here, off to the side.
I'm happy to share with anyone who's interested.
While we do some Q&A, we'll work on this.
All right.
I was excited.
Yeah, I
So-
know, I was too.
So with that, I'd love to open it up to you guys and take your questions on what you'd like to know about what these 4 individuals have done within their organizations to grow their programs, what you would like to overcome.
I guess, Laura,
So.
why do you think not to show it, show the actual executive review? so that everybody can learn those lessons.
I thought
know
that was
a somewhat
yeah.
painful moment, but I feel like that's how we're going to learn if we show those
Right.
things.
We believe, I personally believe in a lot of transparency, and so we're always challenging our team to be as transparent as possible, to share tools, to let people anywhere in the company understand this is how you put together a pitch if you want to pitch to the Growth Council or to your business supervisor or leader. We modeled it this way because a demo day is full of excitement. It's in an actual pitch to the leadership, we take about an hour for each pitch. There's 15 minutes of the team discussing. They're inevitably interrupted and asked questions, and then this discussion ensues. That's very involved, and I'm just not sure that people, we are a productivity services hours-based business. I mean, people don't have hours of time to spend seeing those pitches. It's not closed, and the business ideas and their feedback is not closed. The company gets to see, what is going to the Growth Council. The company also gets to see what has been accepted and what moves forward and what doesn't. So, and there's a lot of transparency with the teams who are working on that, because they're in the room for the whole discussion.
Just I guess a high-level question. So Growth Council, the whole concept of internal disruption and entrepreneurship within your company, who started, maybe not name, but how did that initial concept get pitched internally?
Yeah. It is an amazing structure. You need some kind of, if you're going to start evaluating opportunities that are going to disrupt your core businesses, you can't do that and then send it back to the core business. There has to be a separate investment entity or program. And so we hired Deloitte back in 2015, and they did some strategic planning and visioning with our executive leadership, and pitched this idea of a growth accelerator that would report to a growth council. The growth council is comprised of executive leadership, our CEO. I think we all said it, and I think it's probably one of the most important things. Executive sponsorship is foundational. Like an email from the CEO asking you to participate in a challenge, that's going to get your attention. So really, Deloitte recommended this structure, and we've modified it. We, as the Growth Accelerator, we keep trying to get more and more autonomy. Like, we want to make more of the decisions. And, but.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
So we have the Innovation Fund. The people that we pick for the Innovation Fund, they're in executive positions, but they also got an innovation bent. So, you wouldn't want to get people sort of who come in and just destroy. So I think that's part of it. You've got to find the people who've got that innovation bent, who also knows a business, and sort of empower them to sort of make the governance decisions.
It is a different group than the executive committee. It is people that are at that level that are very oriented towards growth and are interested in higher risk. Yeah. Absolutely.
For Cisco, if I may, I apologize.
Sure.
I can't read your Stephanie. I know we met once before.
You can call me Cisco. It's fine. I'm Cisco. Hello.
Cisco kid.
Yeah.
One day you may be. One day. So I think you mentioned service was your sort of unique niche that you own or some aspect of the innovation program for. With such a broad corporation with so many lines of business and a global workforce, I'm just curious, sort of where did you start department level? Did you start more broad and then realize you needed then specialization? And then how did the continuity then come about across all those various, I imagine, innovation groups that are necessary to cover, such a broad workforce and such a diverse workforce?
Sure. I'm sure, like many of you, we started as a grassroots program buried within the business. So, we got our start within the Learning Services organization, which was part of the overall services. So about 3 levels down from where we are today. And, it started off with just running a couple different challenges here and there, and ultimately building up success along the way to ultimately get the visibility of 2 main aspects from our services organization, which is technical services and advanced services. And then ultimately, once we got that executive buy-in, then we were able to sponsor all of the activity within the services organization. So throughout our progression, we would mainly focus on services, but then once other teams outside of services would hear about us, we would want to help them out, because ultimately our goal is to be the Cisco-wide go-to innovation team, right? We want to be the top CIO, to be able to have everybody come to us to see our innovation expertise to help them. But as of where we are right now, right, we're within the services organization. So, when people outside of the organization would ask for our help, can you help us run a challenge? Would you come in and facilitate a workshop? Would you help us? Can we take this training? That's where we would say, okay, and be able to start to work with those teams and, ultimately work out some additional cross charges, right? Because our funding came from services, so if we were helping other teams, we wanted to be able to make sure that, based on bandwidth, we could help them, but you weren't going to be taken away from the money that was sponsored for services. So throughout the years, we've started to become more tailored. And this year is a really pivotal year for us because we're focusing only on services. And so if teams come to us outside of services, I'm sorry, we can't help you. And we really want to set a precedence that the services organization is on point for innovation, and to be able to have us build so much success within the services organization that ultimately our excellence center can be replicated within the other departments, and we can be seen as the leaders within Cisco when it comes to innovation. There's a number of different other innovation groups. We have one group that sits kind of more on the corporate level. They run a CEO-wide challenge, but that's really all they do. They just do that one challenge when we do so many other services, from strategic consulting to helping with maturity models to the training to the front end to the back end, that it's really been tough to be buried within the business. It's been tough to be a small team, right? And so just through continuous success with different challenges that we've done or workshops or feedback, our team has grown and been able to just prove our way. And so coming into this next year, I'm really excited to just step it up another notch, right? And so we're trying to tie directly with strategy teams and not just, incremental ideas. We're trying to take it to, now we're dealing directly with those disruptive ideas for the technology, that'll really progress us. So we recently went through an org change that now we sit within the Technical Services Strategy and Operations Group, which is huge, right? So there was definitely some political fun times to to get from, buried within the business up to this point. But, we're led by a fearless leader, and he was able to, stick his neck out and really say, this is a great team, and we really can make a strong impact, and we need to get more visibility. And it is true that the higher up you sit, the more credible of a team you appear as. So now being a part of the strategy operations group, we're really hoping that that'll help accelerate our team even more.
I got a question. So as far as you talked about, you used to do work with the people, but now you say no to them. So do they have any other place to go if they want to do innovation challenges?
Not necessarily, honestly. And so there is a homegrown solution that Cisco does have, but it's nowhere near in line with what Bright Idea offers. And so they could certainly use that. But for the most part, no. There's only the CEO-wide challenge, and then there's the services organization. And so our ultimate goal is to show how successful our services is, and then ultimately get on an enterprise license to where other teams outside of services can then provide additional budget.
It's an interesting strategy. You're playing for all the chips, right? I mean,
We're playing for all the chips is
Okay.
ultimately what it comes down to, and it's a political game when you get to this large of a company, and there are other teams, and so we have strong partnerships with the other players in the ecosystem. So over the years we've been able to align, but at the end of the day, there's not ever going to just be one team. There's always going to be multiple teams that are going to participate in innovation. It's just a matter of figuring out who's the best team to go to for what. And so, if we're putting all of our money into different licenses, different content, different people, we got to stick to where our bread and butter is, and then hopefully that'll spread and bring us up. Hopefully.
It's fascinating. I'm just saying, we're doing something different. We're a little more people than you even. And the problem we run into is what I would say is free beer, where everybody starts showing up like, free beer, this is great, they'll do this for us. And we're trying the charge model, and it doesn't work. I'll just be honest. It doesn't. It's very cumbersome. And so it's interesting to say no. It's an interesting thing.
With the external, the chargeback, it honestly was never an issue. At my previous company, it would have been a huge issue. But charging for the services, people would easily pay for us to run a challenge for them, us to leverage for the licensing cost. But then what it came down to is our bandwidth was being taken outside of our team when we really should be focusing on key strategy issues within services.
I mean, it's a great problem to have, right? You're popular at the
It's a-
party, but it's derailing you. So I understand.
Exactly.
Totally.
So it's a big pivotal point, and this year is the start of us saying no, which before we were like, we'll help any and all, help us get to the top.
How long
and
have you been saying no?
About 3 months. So we've turned down a couple folks, and they're like, what? So, come to services.
So one thing that I'd love to hear from one or a couple of you is, how do you ensure that your key stakeholders know that your program is continuing to deliver value to your organization?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question. And communication is, you've given me a lot of good ideas in communication, but one thing that my CIO asked me recently is like draft up a letter, memo, and that's like a memorandum is like official documentation. It's kind of like really important, and it's sent to the managing director's office and the heads of departments, and she likes to sort of let them be informed on an official basis. So like, it doesn't have to be everything, but like it's like, hey, program's flourishing, these are the wins, these are lessons learned. And that I thought that was a good strategy, because there's an official sort of email. We do have the the intranet articles. One of the really interesting ways we did one of a recognition event this year for the last challenge, we actually did a Shark Tank presentation and recognition event at the same time. So these guys, they won, but they still had to pitch their ideas. They still had to sort of, answer tough questions from the panel. But at the end of it, we actually established partnerships, which got that buy-in aspect from the sponsors or other innovation players. So that was a nice, engaging way of, telling the story. That's not kind of like boring.
Yeah.
For us, it's a matter of having a quarterly checkpoint with our executive sponsors, keeping them abreast on different activities. But what we really try to focus on is, not just the number of people that have been engaged or the number of ideas that we've submitted. It's what ideas are incubating right now, what ideas have delivered impact, whether it be the financial or be non-financial. We really try to keep a documented record of each engagement and different impact that's come from that, whether it's different endorsements, referrals, obviously the financial impact is the biggest one that gets the ears perked up. But having that quarterly touch point, making sure that they're just really, a finger on the pulse with our team. They understand, they're a huge advocate for our team. That's just huge.
We do some of the similar things, but to add to that, we, in that spirit of transparency, We actually publish on our intranet quarterly, like how we're performing to the whole company. So the whole company can see like how much new business revenue, projected new business revenue are you guys generating? How many cultural engagements have you had? How many strategy engagements have you had? How much of the incubator pilot funding has been allocated by the Growth Council to your projects? You know, we have a set budget that we're trying to win all that money to get it on pilot projects, and we have to take really convincing pitches to get that allocated. So that transparency, I think, is tremendous. And then the other thing that we do is we have a group of about, I'm going to say 15 really key partners across the company who, if you drew a circle like a bullseye, they're right there in the center with us. They're like, they might even overlap our work a little bit. And rather than allow there to be conflict and confusion around what's your role, what's my role, we're in the same, especially business excellence and, in innovation and process improvement. We meet with them quarterly, and we do it just over drinks. I mean, it's a really fun, informal, like, here's a touch point with our team. So those are a couple of added strategies. I think identifying your partners across the organization is really important, and transparency is important.
So one of the things that we do is success stories, so communicating via the Bright Idea platform. We've got a separate tab where we've got success stories, and also communicating through our intranet so that people who have been collaborating with us can see the successes, and also it sort of gives exposure to the broader organisation.
Any other questions? So one of the, yeah, please, Brad.
I know someone mentioned earlier that they did quite a nice job at helping sort of flesh out with a new sponsor exactly what the ask of a specific challenge could be. And I guess ironically, I've found it that everybody's very interested in innovating, but yet they struggle sometimes to pick out a specific item, whether it's something to solve or optimize, whatever the case may be, to literally kind of put their finger on something that makes sense. And sometimes that barrier of entry of getting through that thinking of where can I start stops us from taking on a new relationship with a sponsor, because they're just quite frankly not sure where to start. So I don't know if anyone has any suggestions in terms of approach, whether it's workshops or just clever lines of questioning to help sort of lead a potential sponsor who's interested in the concept but isn't quite sure exactly how much to bite off, to start, or exactly even where to start, how you kind of get somebody there.
Go ahead.
So that resonates so much with a recent experience. We just wrapped up. I was reflecting on this with some other folks. 4 challenges launched simultaneously. Kristen was like, I don't know that that's a good idea. Do you have a whole plan around that? And I was like, kind of. We're going to do it tomorrow, so I can't really change. And when we started conversations around this challenge, I was meeting with the person at the top, right? The chief safety officer for the whole company, in charge of ESH&S and NH. And sorry, ESH and H. And he had a really hard time articulating what he wanted to ask the company. And it was like we spoke different languages. He was like, well, something about how would you improve the safety culture, or how, it was very broad. And so what I did instead was go to his team and asked them, like, what has been generating the greatest number of safety incidents? Or, tried to ask really probing questions to his team, the people who are in the trenches, who are working, who are trying to solve problems. And they were immediately engaged, and they were much more able to identify something specific that people could tackle. And then we still put his question out there too. Just like, that's why we had 4.
I would definitely compliment everything that you just said. One thing that we really noticed was our leaders didn't necessarily know how to lead when it came to innovation. And so when we looked at our training aspect, we actually created a one-day workshop to where we would come into the leadership on-site and teach them. It's called a Leading for Innovation workshop. And we taught them that there's a ton of different roles with innovation, and taught them how to understand the strategic priorities and ultimately take it from a filter point of view and come down to specific pain points. And this is what we can go ahead, leverage our framework. And they started to see us more as a trusted advisor instead of just someone that was trying to shove innovation down their throat. So it was a matter of, teaching them, and then they really kind of were bought into the process. And then they were all speaking the same language, and that really helped. So it could be something, that you could bring into your company is a one-day workshop to where you teach the leadership team specifically what it means for them to engage in innovation. And I'm happy to talk with you afterward, too.
Any last questions before we wrap up? Or any last comments?
I had a question around if any of your companies are incentivizing experimentation, and if they are, what does that incentive look like for employees in general and also managers?
So I guess in terms of challenges, we do offer rewards for our challenges. So typically it's a $200 Amazon reward that people will get if they have the selected idea that gets moved forward. In addition to that, we try and use sort of reputation points as well, so that people are recognised for the contributions that they make.
I mean, the way sort of we've done it was typically we sort of do a combination of recognition and sort of innovation funding. That's the way we've done it before. You find it also varies. I mean, some people, they really want to see the ideas sort of implemented, so they'll actually quite go for the innovation funding, because it's a means for them to get the funding that they normally wouldn't normally get. Some of the people already have a project in stream, but they don't get the visibility into, winning a contest, or visibility into showcasing their product. So they just want the recognition piece. And I've heard several examples of it where people, they don't want money. They just want to share their story that they're working on this, and they want, the photo with the MD or a newspaper article. So it depends.
Anybody's got like a wild dream of what your program could be, like what my boss used to always ask me, begin with the end in mind. So I don't know if you have like an idea of what it could be.
Our dream is to be the Cisco-wide go-to innovation team. I mean, really, that's our end game. When we got together at our last on-site, we said in 2 years, this is where we want to be. So, we're trying to do everything possible to get the buy-in from various organizations, and then ultimately just keep growing to the top.
Would anything change in what you do, I guess, if you were that?
I think that our team would definitely grow, and we would expand to other organizations. I mean, it would just go outside of the services group. But from the services that we offer, no. I think that we have a really sound program. It's just a matter of expanding outside our target audience.
And one quick question, Luis.
One last question. Have you had any cases where the person that submits the idea actually participates on the profit of that product, like being a kind of a part of the intellectual property of the idea?
So we have not done that yet, but we are talking with HR, and we also have done some focus groups with people who have participated in that fantastic Ignite program that you guys saw in the video.
What a great video.
Yeah, it was just amazing. And so our interest is that when we are incubating projects and taking them from a seed funding level to a pilot funding and then hopefully launching them, We envision equity negotiations with the idea owner or with that person who's leading that project, or other incentive structures so that they have some ownership. Because a few of these may end up, and I can't remember who is doing this, but we envision spinning those off as new companies. So it may not make sense for them to stay within our company. So that's how we're handling that right now.
There is a group, I think Innovation Lab, they incentivize through that model where you sort of, once you get a proven product, you actually get a commission, so you know.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, panelists, and thank you everyone for your time. You've heard me say it once or twice or 3 times already, but we really do want your feedback. We want to make sure that the content that we bring you is meaningful to you. So please do use the app and let us know what you thought about the workshops that you attended, so that we can improve our programming and deliver an even better program for you next year. So thank you so much for being here the last 2 days. We really appreciate it.